Hello, future cinema class. Mark Terry here, and today I'm with Anthea Foyer, one of the co-founders. Hi, there she is. One of the co-founders of the transmedia, multi-platform, convergent
resource kit.
Resource kit, there we go, website. You all took a look at it this week, I suppose, and I certainly hope. And so we're just going to have a little chat and find out why the website came into existence and how it's meant to be used. So thanks for joining us, Anthea. That's very good. Maybe tell us why you started this kit or this website.
Sure. Yeah. So Siobhan and I started this website because we didn't see anything else like it out there. And so we do a lot of mentoring for other groups of people and for students, and for ourselves as well for our own projects. And we just couldn't find this information anywhere. And so we thought it would be a useful kit to build.
Yeah. Well, it's very generous of you to put it all together so other producers can find it too. So what kind of information did you find in those early days that was the hardest to come across?
I think that, let's see, the hardest to come across, people are very secretive, so there were some people that were incredibly generous and they gave us tons of information, and then other people were very close to the bone and they didn't want to share with us. So I think just getting some real details on some of the money stuff people weren't always comfortable with.
Yeah, that's usually a challenge, isn't it? Yeah. And what about creatively? Like what kind of tools are available for the transmedia storyteller to use on our site?
So what we have on there, the biggest part of it is a series of case studies for a variety of kinds of projects. So we tried to get different projects that were smaller and artier and bigger and more commercial. And then we have some resources on there for grants and other fun resources that are available for money resources. And those are the kind of the main things on there.
Yeah. And how long has it been up?
It has been up. It's been up for a while now. I want to say maybe 5 or 6 years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And what kind of hits do you get on it? How often is it used?
I'm actually not sure. I haven't looked at that in a while. I think it's probably gone in waves. When we first put it up, we put more promotion into it, and so there was more then. But now it seems like it's being used more in this way for classrooms and for people to look at. So we're finding more and more people are coming to us around using it in classrooms.
Yeah. Well, transmedia storytelling is really kind of taking off more today than it ever has. And who do you think is driving that? Do you think it's the artists or the producers looking for new revenue streams, or maybe another group, or all of the above?
I think it's probably all of the above. I think that some of the big pushes have come through really, really big commercial projects, and so they really saw, I think a lot of the producers and a lot of the big companies saw it as another marketing tool, and so they got really excited because there was this other marketing tool that seemed really powerful to them. And then, although sometimes it can get complicated and expensive, so that got a bit frustrating for them, I think. But I think a lot of artists are just thinking this way. I think a lot of people, this is how they in a multi-platform world, the stories they're telling are cross-platform, so it makes sense.
Yeah, and the consumer actually wants this, right? It's not the artist wanting to share his story across multiple platforms. It's actually the consumer wanting to see it that way.
For sure. And I mean, in my opinion, I think that actually the 20th century was the blip. It was the having a screen where there's just one way of communicating. I think that was actually, because if you look before the 20th century with any kind of storytelling, there was often much more collaborative or much more connected or had different levels to it. And then it was the 20th century where we suddenly had TV and film where it was just us telling you something. So I actually think we're kind of going back to human nature of having this more robust and experience.
It's going back to our storytelling roots through digital platforms. Good. Okay. Now maybe you'd like to share with the class some of your own projects and how it worked for you.
Sure. So mine are really much more on the arty side. So my background is that I come from a fine arts background, and so I've just always told stories through multiple platforms, and I didn't have a name for it until it kind of came around. So I mean, a project that I've been working on for the last few years that I think I'm finished with, but I'm not totally sure, is a project that is called The Anthropologists, and so that one was told through, there's about 4 websites. There's one main one that's kind of a newspaper that brings everything together. There's live events, immersive theater. I came up with a new astrology, so there's new astrology cards and a new astrology website. There's a couple of Easter egg sites in there too. It ended up being 6 dance performances and dance videos. It just kind of kept going because the story wanted it, and then other people have taken on the story too. So someone actually wrote a new alphabet for these people. So there's an alphabet that someone else wrote for it.
Wow.
There was a whole bazaar that people created with tons of different booths and storylines for Nuit Blanche last year, and that I was a small part of that, but that was mostly other people that decided they liked the story and they went with it. So that's probably the biggest one that I've worked on, just because it kind of keeps going because other people get excited and they ask me to continue it.
Well, it's really interesting. You mentioned that you started up the story idea, the original artistic concept, and other people seem to run with it. How does that make you feel? Are you proud of that, or protective of your creative? Or?
Both. I mean, it's really exciting, and it's really amazing to watch other people really be so engaged in your story, and of course, I love that.
Yeah.
It also made me realize where my own artistic lines are around authorship. There was one point where a few people went off in a direction that I felt didn't fit in with the larger story, and I had to really examine my own desires to let the audience have it and where that fit. So that was interesting for me to figure out my own personal levels of that, what fits in the story and what is not part of that story world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, thank you. And as far as the actual media platforms go, with the obvious, film and television, let's put those aside.
Sure.
What other kind of media is kind of lending itself to be the most popular platforms for transmedia storytelling today?
Sure. Well, now's a really interesting time because we're at such a, I think we're at a sort of crossover point with things like VR and AR, and I think those are really going to be, a lot of big companies are investing a lot of time, and a lot of artists are getting really excited, so I think those are going to really branch out. I think AR is going to be big because it's a lot cheaper, and it's interesting too. So, and because you can mix AR more easily with other platforms, because you can do AR on all your social media and everything like that. So I think those are the interesting ones to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now, as far as the funding models, we'll just talk a little bit about that. But usually we've had the Canada Media Fund and the Bell Broadcast Fund. Traditional model is you have to have a broadcaster in place, and any kind of digital media stemming from that could be supported. How do you think the future looks for all the various media that we have, and not necessarily attached to the broadcast?
Sure. I think that there needs to be shifts in it, and I think that it's going to have to happen. I think in the arts world it has shifted. All of the funding changed from the Canada Council this year, and now they actually don't have categories anymore. So there's not dance, film, blah, blah, blah. It's just creation.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's going to shift in that part of the world. But unfortunately, the funding in that, the funding is great, but it's not as much as if you do a full broadcast of anything. So then in those realms, places like the CMF, I think that they're getting there, but I'm not sure it's quite there yet. I'm not sure they're totally comfortable yet giving $500,000 to something that doesn't have a TV or a film component to it. Hopefully that'll come, but I don't think it's quite there yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks, Anthea. Thanks for joining us and being part of our class today. So I'll leave the video world here and go back to the actual world. So Ernie and Mark, back to you. Thank you.